If the Bruins we saw in Saturday's 2-1 win over Carolina are what we're going to get on a regular basis, this team might actually have some.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Beat. Today is Monday, November 3rd. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins your first listen every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on this episode, we are going to discuss a 2-1 win over Carolina that showed exactly who Marco Sturm wants this team to be. Structured, physical, tough to beat. Jeremy Swayman standing tall. Charlie McAvoy, Nikita Zadorov paired together to lock it down. We'll also discuss why Mason Lohrei's benching says a lot about Marco Sturm's coaching philosophy, and name today's Bruin of the day, Jonathan Aspirot, who's stepped in for Lohrei and been a quiet key to Boston's defensive reset. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Quick reminder, you can find the podcast on socials at Locked NHL Bruins. That's on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. You can find me, my hockey thoughts and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I've been covering this team and the NHL for various outlets for 20 years, bringing you expert insight and daily analysis of the Spoke to Be as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, the Bruins may have finally found their identity, and it starts on the blue line and in their own zone. I was on the Locked On NHL podcast here on Monday discussing how surprising it is that the Bruins' defensive game has been troubling so far this season, while their offense has been fairly stable. Marco Sturm on Saturday called Boston's defensive game very noticeable. This is what Bruins hockey is supposed to look like. Limiting transition, defending inside the dots, capitalizing when it matters. Jeremy Swayman was given 2 nights off as Joonas Korpisalo was given 2 straight starts, and that was a clear message following his previous performance where he lost a 7-2 decision in Ottawa. In this game against a very talented Hurricane squad, Swayman responded exactly how you would want him to. 28 saves on 29 shots for a .966 save percentage, calm and efficient. The kind of unflappability that we have come to know and expect from a guy like Jeremy Swayman, who said after the game, sometimes it's not your night, as it was in Ottawa. You park it, you move forward, and you have that mindset of the next time you're out, you do as best you can. Another big thing from that game was the secondary scoring starting to pop. And we all know the book on this team is that it's David Pastrnak, followed by Morgan Geekie, and then who is going to step up? Pavel Zacha dished the puck over to Charlie McAvoy, who created a short 2-on-1 with Casey Mittelstadt. The forward knocked in McAvoy's cross-crease pass for a 1-0 advantage pretty early on in the third. Mittelstadt's 4th goal of the season, McAvoy's 3rd point in as many games, and Zacha's secondary assist extended his point streak to 3 games. Later, Victor Arvidsson widened the gap. Mittelstadt popped the puck up to him. He dashed up the ice on the breakaway before sniping it past Frederik Andersen, his third goal of the year, all of which have come in the past week. Arvidsson said as a line, they're playing more connected. They're getting a lot of chances. They got 2 in this one, so that was, of course, very nice. But the big win was the Bruins defending well. Hurricanes have a team that plays aggressive and transitions well, but the Bruins were in good spots. They had good gaps and good D-zone coverage. Charlie McAvoy afterwards said, every day is a new opportunity in this league. They've done a good job of finding that perspective, finding ways to get better with the limited time they have between games. They've had a very packed schedule so far, a league high 14 games played, and that has kind of contributed to their 500 start to date. Takes time, especially with limited practices, new faces, new coaches, new structures, and the Bruins had probably their most complete game of the season on Saturday, something they can really build on. They've now got 3 wins in a row, 4 in their past 5, and they're feeling good about their game moving forward, according to goaltender Jeremy Swayman. The stats tell the story in this one. The Bruins had 7 high danger chances compared to only 5 for Carolina. 3 0-0 since Hampus Lindholm returned to the lineup. And the new pairing of Nikita Zadorov and Charlie McAvoy has been especially effective. These guys are incredibly difficult to face in the defensive zone. On one hand, you got both of those guys who can truck you at any opportunity. They're both also very good at moving the puck up. And whereas it was Mason Lohrei and McAvoy on the top pair, Zadorov has moved up. And this is a pretty frightening and effective top pair that Marco Sturm can now use at his disposal. And it's really encouraging to see, you want your best players to be your best players. These are 2 of the highest paid defensemen on the team, and you want them to be able to lock down the opposition. The Hurricanes had 53% of the shot attempts in this one. They had, some scoring chances. They had some high danger chances, but the Bruins really took it to them in this one. 14-7, the high danger chances at 5-on-5, which is an incredible advantage for the Boston Bruins. They had the expected goals advantage as well. Pretty much just dominated Carolina, not on the shots, but when it came to actual high-quality opportunities for this team. Such a great game for the Bruins, a lot to really build on, and 3-game winning streak. Unfortunately, they're still only at 500, which is the lowest point percentage in the Eastern Conference, if you can believe it. We'll take a look at some more stats, the significance of this game, and also talk about Mason Lohrei being scratched and name our Bruin of the day, all here as the podcast continues. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss tip-off or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you have to do is head to FanDuel.com, sign up, play your game, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And right now, again, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game all season long. Let's be honest, most people can't even name all their financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It can help you organize your accounts, track your spending, and get a better handle on your investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. I love that I can review everything with my partner, see our shared goals, and make financial decisions together. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where your money's going and how to make it work harder. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, one of the big storylines over the last week or so, while the Bruins have been on this winning streak, is Mason Lohrei sitting out. And Marco Sturm did not mince words when talking about this decision, saying Mason Lohrei should be pissed. He should be very pissed. Now, Lohrei does have 6 points in 11 games, but his D-zone does remain inconsistent. And Sturm's challenge is pretty clear. He has to prove that he can defend before he tries to create. Since Hampus Lindholm returned from injured reserve, the Bruins are 3-0-0, and the defensive balance has improved dramatically. McAvoy's pairing with Nikita Zadorov has indeed been a revelation. 56 minutes together, 5-on-5. They've allowed just one goal while facing top lines. And Nikita Zadorov recently said they take pride in defending. Always nice to go against top players. And he thinks they're doing a pretty good job. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, they actually are doing a very good job here as they try to shore things up defensively. Again, that's been a real struggle for the Boston Bruins so far this season. And even despite the win streak, they're still kind of near the bottom in terms of shot attempts, 5-on-5. They have a 47.6 advantage or disadvantage in that one. Shots, the Bruins are allowing, they're generating, only 48.6% of all shots at 5-on-5. High danger opportunities. The Bruins are second to last in the NHL. They're generating 103 high danger attempts at 5-on-5 while allowing 141. So that's something that really has to be improved. Although they did have the advantage over a very good Carolina Hurricanes team. The Bruins' identity shift right now is pretty obvious. Results, now lessons learned. Lohrei is watching from above, and he's learning what it takes to play meaningful minutes under Marco Sturm. And while the spotlight is shining on the big names, there's an under-the-radar Bruin quietly earning trust on the blue line, and he's our Bruin of the day today, Jonathan Aspirot. He's embodying that play the right way mindset. Not on the score sheet, but his play reflects exactly what Sturm is preaching. Smart positioning, good stick, physical edge, and zero panic. He logged reliable minutes against a very fast Carolina forecheck and looked like he belonged. And these are the kinds of performances that allow Boston to stabilize defensively and build trust in their depth. He's earning coach's confidence by doing the little things right, showing that his team's buy-in extends beyond the top pairing. Jonathan Aspirot is not a guy I knew very much about. heading into this season. And he's also a guy that even last week I said, I don't want to see him in the lineup here too much over Lohrei, but he's playing very well. His first 3 games of his career, no points, but he's been stable. He's been physical. He had a big hit in the third period of the game against the Carolina Hurricanes that allowed the Bruins to maintain their lead. Look, he's not averaging a ton of minutes, and he's not making a massive impact out there, but he's doing enough to warrant consideration in the lineup for now over Mason Lohrei. Do I think this is a long-term strategy? No. Do I believe Mason Lohrei should be in the lineup on a regular basis? Yes. But, the hockey world reacts to what's working, so don't mess with it. I would expect that a guy like Aspirot will remain in the lineup as long as this team continues to win. An undrafted defenseman who has played several seasons in the AHL, and he has put up some points. He had 33 points in 66 games for the Calgary Wranglers 2 seasons ago, 29 points in 65 games with Calgary last season. He did have 3 points with Providence this season before being called up. He's got some size, 6 foot, 212 pounds, 26 years old. And for the moment, he's proving to be effective on the third pairing with Henry Jokiharju. Now, what do the Bruins do when Lohrei comes back? Do they put him with a more physical Andrew Peeke? Do they put him with Jokiharju? They certainly could use him out there on the second power play unit. Be interesting to see when Lohrei does get back in the lineup, who he's paired with, because let's be honest, he's not going to sit out for too much longer. You're paying him, I think he's like their 4th highest paid defenseman. He needs to be in the lineup. He needs to be learning. He's had 3 games now to watch from the press box, and hopefully he can come back soon and use that anger or frustration from being scratched to positive results here when the Bruins get back to the ice. They do have a few games on tap, and we'll discuss what's coming up for this team this week here as the podcast continues. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's where Game Time comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay. There are no hidden fees at checkout. Plus, you can see exactly what the view will look like before you buy tickets with their in-app seat view feature. Zone deals are a game changer. Pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with Game Time. So if you look at the NHL standings today, you see our Boston Bruins right in the thick of the Eastern Conference wildcard race. They are ahead of teams like the Florida Panthers, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Washington Capitals, all of whom were playoff teams last season. However, it's important to look at the point percentage. The Bruins, 14 points through 14 games, a 500 point percentage. They have more points again than the Capitals, Panthers, Maple Leafs, Sabres, Flyers, and the Islanders. But if you look at point percentage, the Bruins remain at the bottom of the Eastern Conference because they have played more games than anybody else. And 14 points, 14 games is not as good as having 14 points in 13 games or 13 points in 12 games, as is the case with Florida, Toronto, Buffalo. So the Bruins, even though they are 500 and they've won 3 games in a row, they're still at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. And that just shows you how competitive the East is so far this season. They also have a -3 goal differential, which is tied for worst in the East with Florida and with Ottawa. So they're kind of hanging around, but they have to build on this win streak if they want to really remain in the mix here. And this is a conversation we've had all summer long. We're going to have all season long. What does this team want to be? Do they want to be competitive every night? Do they want to be challenging for a playoff spot? Do they want to be in that mix? Or do they want to, once again, bottom out and try to get the best possible draft pick? And they may not even have a choice because the Eastern Conference is so deep and competitive. Again, no team in the East is under 500 at the moment. And they started off the month very well with a win over the Carolina Hurricanes. And they have a ton of divisional matchups coming up. They will next be on Long Island to take on New York on Tuesday. And then they will come home to host the Ottawa Senators on Thursday. And then a big game on Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada in Toronto. The first of a home and home with the Maple Leafs. I'm not sure if they have any games in between, but they'll be in Toronto on Saturday and back home to face the Leafs on Tuesday, November 11th, before playing the Senators again and then the Montreal Canadiens. So 5 big Atlantic Division matchups coming up. They'll take on the Hurricanes once again later on in the month. A big California road trip coming up. Ducks, Kings, Sharks. Then they play the Islanders once again at New York before the Black Friday game against the New York Rangers and a home game against the Detroit Red Wings to wrap up the month of November. So that's what's coming up for the Boston Bruins. Big picture, this team is better offensively than we thought they were going to be. David Pastrnak leading the way with 17 points in 14 games. He's on track for another massive season. And he hasn't been, spectacular. He's not in the top when it comes to scoring. He's 9th, I believe, right now in NHL scoring, on pace for 41 goals, 59 assists. His shooting percentage is a bit down compared to what we are used to from him. He's at 14.3. Actually, that's a bit above his career average of 13.9, but below the 15% he had when he had 61 goals a few seasons ago. So I'd like to see that tick up a bit, get back to among the league leaders in shooting. Pavel Zacha, 12 points in 14 games for this team, only 2 goals though. The flip side, Morgan Geekie has 9 goals with only 2 assists. Charlie McAvoy quietly having a pretty good offensive season. No goals yet, but he does have 10 assists in 14 games. Elias Lindholm out of the lineup. He's still at 9 points in 13 games. Then you have Casey Mittelstadt, Mikey Eyssimont, Victor Arvidsson, slowly creeping his way into more relevance for the Bruins. Now up to 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points in 14 games, tied with Lohrei, who's got 6 points in 11 games. The Bruins, hopefully they can get a bit more from some of their depth guys. Hampus Lindholm only 1 point in 6 games. Same with John Beecher. Husnudinov had that overtime winner last week, but still only has 2 points on the season. Fraser Minton with 4 points. So there's still room for guys to step up. There's room for guys to be called up. The Providence Bruins continuing to roll, and they have some great talent down there that the Bruins could tap into with Elias Lindholm injured for a couple weeks, presumably going to be going on IR at some point. Will they call up a Matt Patra or a Riley Tufte at the very least to help with that depth? We'll have to wait and see. But for the time being, the Bruins were off on Sunday, a full day off, and they will be back to practice here on Monday in preparation for tomorrow night's game against the New York Islanders. So that's the absolute latest on the Boston Bruins here today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Please do subscribe if you have not done so already. Please check out the Locked On NHL podcast next. Every game, every night, covered until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. I'm still kind of reeling from the Game 6 and 7 of the World Series. Highly disappointing. 2 of my favorite teams now have lost a Game 7 at home to decide a championship. And still not quite over 2019. It's going to take a long time to get over this one as well, because the Toronto Blue Jays had every opportunity to finish off the Dodgers multiple times. They weren't able to get it done. 18-inning game to where it came down to the bottom of the ninth, and they were within inches of winning. Very disappointing, but we press on here in life and on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. We'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.